Good afternoon, Monroe County. This is the Board of Directors meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, March 10th, 2022, and our first in-person meeting in about 2 years. So we are also on Zoom. Yay. We are also on Zoom for whoever wishes to join us. And as always, we will be on CATS after the meeting. So thank you to everybody. I will do the standard roll call, but I want to advise Mr. McGlasson that Commissioner Githens will be coming shortly. So we will add her in. If you want to begin with the roll call, please.
Munson.
Here.
Thomas. Githens. Hamilton.
Here.
Piedmont Smith.
Here.
Jones. Swafford.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First item of business is very quick, and that is the Executive Committee meeting minutes for January 31st of this year. And these are included in the packet for your information. Next, we'll have a report from our controller, Ms. Kathy Martin.
The cash flow summary is on page 7 of the packet as of The cash flow summary is on page 7 of the packet. As of February 28th, the ending balance in the operating account was $2,015,541.52. Savings account was $1,719,83. Closure bond debt was $7,511.31. Capital account was $45,425.80. And the landfill post closure was $748,625.55. The individual cash flow statements follow on pages 8 through 10 and 12 through 14. The cash balance graph is in the middle there on page 11. Questions on the cash flow statements?
Does anyone have questions? I think not. Go ahead, Ms. Martin.
On page 15 is a listing of the pre-approved claims in the amount of $74,394.94. The backup for the documentation for those follows on pages 16 through 23. Yesterday, I sent an email with the current weekly claims for payroll and accounts payable in the amount of $83,662.29. That brings the total of the claims that I approve and am submitting for your approval to $158,057.23. Questions on those?
Any questions? Thank you for that. I think our system is working very well already with having a smaller number of claims not a smaller number of claims, a smaller number of reports of claims to review. We still have the same large number of claims. So we're going to do this bi-weekly, and I hope this is working for you, Ms. Martin.
It is.
Good. Okay. Well, seeing no questions, are there any questions from the public? Madam Vice Chair, could we have a motion, please?
Yes, I move approval of the payroll and claims as presented in our meeting packet, plus what was emailed yesterday.
Thank you. Seeing no comments, Mr. McGlasson, would you do a roll call vote, please?
There is a hand up on Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, Tom,
Yeah.
that's the Women's Caucus. They're asking to be promoted to panelist.
Okay,
If you could
Okay.
right click on them.
Oh,
and
that
promote
may
them
be
to
Penny.
panelist.
That is Commissioner Githens.
okay.
So please mark her here for the record and welcome to Commissioner Githens.
Thank you. It took me a while to get in.
But you're here with us. Good.
I am.
Just
And
just in time for the vote on the claims.
yes.
Okay.
Are we
Mr.
ready?
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item of business is a very important one for this board, and this concerns the memorandum of understanding with the City of Bloomington Utilities, which addresses a proposal for a study of a biodigester program. And is there anything you wish to say before we speak with Mr. Kelson?
No, just included in the packet is the memorandum of understanding that the City of Bloomington Utilities presented to the district as an offer of collaboration on the study. Also included is the proposal that I do not think that most of the board has had a chance to review until the packet went out.
Right.
But that is the proposal that is under consideration.
Okay. And for the public, they can look at that proposal online inside the meeting packet.
Yes.
So let's now welcome Mr. Vic Kelson from Bloomington Utilities Director. Oops. There we
I
go.
always forget to unmute. I'm Vic Kelson. I'm Director of Utilities for the City of Bloomington. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all today. Chris Wheeler from City Legal will be joining us shortly, I do believe. There he is. And he can speak directly to the MOU itself. I can speak to the project. So let me just introduce basically what we're talking about proposing to do. We did talk with your board about this several weeks ago, and we're following up now with the proposal to divide the cost of this study between the City of Bloomington Utilities Department and the Solid Waste Management District. Basically, we have investigated in the past the possibility for anaerobic digestion of wastewater solids and some organic waste streams as well at our Dillman plant. It turned out that that really wasn't going to generate the amount of gas that we would need to pay for it on its own. But we've stepped back a little bit and we've been looking into the possibility that we might do a smaller project that was really oriented towards solid waste, both your solid waste and the waste solids from the Blucher Pool plant. So this would be primarily food waste, organic waste separated from the solid waste stream, fats, oils, and grease, and then the biosolids from the Blucher Pool wastewater plant, which is our smaller plant. We have a large area at the plant that would be very likely to be suitable for the facility to be sited there. But we don't know, there's a lot we don't know about a project like this. So we've been talking with a group of consultants who would work together. They've given us a proposal for doing a study, a comprehensive study of all manner of questions related to this kind of an effort. And Chris Wheeler, I'll have him talk now about the MOU itself, and then we can answer any questions that you have.
Is Mr. Wheeler ready to join us? Mr. McGlasson? There he is.
Yes, he's here.
Welcome, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I worked on this MOU with the legal department for the county, and we are presenting this MOU for your consideration. very shortly, assuming it goes well and this commission accepts the MOU and approves it, we will be at 5 o'clock meeting with the Utility Service Board for them to review the same MOU, for them to consider and approve it on that side of the equation. The MOU simply outlines and identifies the purpose behind the feasibility study that's being conducted, which is to look at resource recovery, including anaerobic digestion, which I think is the major point of emphasis on this project if we ever get it off the ground. But there's anaerobic digestion, there's looking at the feedstock market, which would assist in feeding that anaerobic digestion, in addition to residual solid beneficial, residual liquid side stream, things that I don't understand, but fancy words that they used, they being the Energy Power Partners company that we intend to utilize for this feasibility study. They are, from what I could tell from researching them online, a rather large corporation that has a significant foothold in this type of work. I believe they're East Coast created and existing, but work all across the country. And we're excited to have them do this work. The cost of the study will not exceed $129,220. And this MOU contemplates that the city and the county will share that cost 50-50, and the county will pay its 50-50 in the form of a reimbursement back to the utilities department once they've made payment to EPP, the Energy Power Partners. I don't know what else to share with you. I'm happy to try and answer questions if you have any.
So thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Board members, are you ready to ask questions about the proposed study or about the MOU? Ms. Piedmont Smith.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, Mr. Wheeler, when you said that there's a utility service board meeting today to try to get this vote, this MOU adopted by that body. Is there an urgency that I'm unaware of for this proposal?
The meeting was rescheduled.
Not just the way that, yeah, sorry, there's no urgency. It's just the way everything lined up. We just happen to be having these meetings on the same day. Ordinarily, the Utility Service Board meets on Monday nights, but because next week is spring break, we pushed it up to a Thursday, which had nothing to do with this MOU. It's just the way that things lined up. If this board has any concerns about the MOU or the project itself and doesn't wish to move forward tonight, we're happy to table the same agenda item on our end and wait to see what we can do to clear things up and try to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Hamilton?
Thanks very much. Sorry. Nice to be with you all together too. Let me just say, that's great. Mr. McGlasson, do you have a view about this? I know I'm very pleased with the potential collaboration. I'm pleased with the potential solid waste diversion. I think this really is right down the main line of trying to improve our management of what is a lot of compostable materials, but I know you've dug into it more than I have. Do you have a recommendation to us or a view of where we are on this?
Well, I'm going to, based on some of the discussions that I've been involved in that I know that you've not, Mr. Mayor, you know, at this time, I don't know that I have a recommendation because I don't, the CAC and the executive committee, and I think there's a desire to have some additional discussion. But you know, I would, you know, say that, you know, I think that, you know, like you know, I'm always interested in collaboration with other, you know, government and public entities and in ways that we can work together to, you know, to do common good for Monroe County and its residents. And I think that there are a number of things, you know, that potentially come out of this study that do line up well with some of the goals and objectives in our 5-year solid waste management plan. I know there's some questions out there about, you know, benefits to the, you know, with the outcome of the study or what may come from the study with regard to an anaerobic digester, or, you know, that the benefits to those residents that aren't customers of City of Bloomington utilities. You know, but I, you know, not everything is going to be of a benefit to 100% of the population all the time. So, but those are things that you have to consider. You know, I'm leaning to being in favor of moving forward with this and collaborating. I think that it does appear that pros outweigh the cons at this point. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in no hurry. I mean, I didn't know if there are more questions. It's fine with me. I don't think it's an urgent matter, and so however people want to proceed is fine. I'm basically in favor, but defer. And if the executive committee's reviewed it already and has other views, that's fine too. I hadn't, so.
Ms. Piedmont-Smith.
Well, at the executive committee meeting, we talked with the head of our CAC, Mr. Winia, and there was a desire for the CAC to also be able to weigh in. And I think that we should, as a board, take this into consideration along with a broader view of how to most effectively spend the additional funds that we obviously have. As we see our graph keeps going up the scale to, you know, close to 3 million now in our operating fund that, you know, only a fraction of which is budgeted. So I would prefer to wait and kind of think about what other big projects there might be that we would undertake. There's certainly, I mean, half of the cost of this study would still leave us with a lot of extra money. But I think a broader conversation should take place with the CAC, and then we should decide. So I would prefer to wait.
I think Ms. Gissens has her hand up.
Ms. Gissens.
Yes, I join Councilmember Piedmont-Smith in asking that we be allowed to have more time to reflect on this and talk with the CAC. I also would like to have input from the 2 missing members of our board, Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Thomas, who couldn't be here today. I also want to ask, you know, we have people that are serviced by the CBU and those who aren't within the county. And so how would people who don't receive service from CBU benefit from this? They're asked to pay taxes for something that they may not have absolutely any benefit from.
Well, every CBU customer also pays those same taxes. This is a project that would affect all solid waste district customers, including those who are also CBU customers.
In what way?
What's that?
In what way would it benefit non-CBU members?
It benefits all the residents of the county in that it allows for reuse and energy generation from solid waste, regardless of who generated it and regardless of where it came from. One of the things that this proposal is to look into is the possibility of taking things like grease, fats, oils, and grease. It's a very good feedstock for making gas. Presently, CBU does not accept oils and grease from outside Monroe County, but we could if we had a place to put them that would be beneficial to the community. So one of the things that this proposal contemplates is looking into the possibility that we could market the service of managing grease and turning it into energy. Now, one of the important aspects of this entire proposal is that it looks at all the dynamics of all the financial streams, which would be tipping fees, which would be if it generates gas or if it generates electricity, if that was used, say, to operate the facility, and then any excess would be used to at the wastewater plant, which happens to be right next door. Then there would be a charge that the utilities department would pay for the electricity that it got from the plant. So all those different streams of waste and all those different streams of dollars all go together. In the end, all the residents of Monroe County inside the city or outside the city will benefit from the fact that these wastes are used in a beneficial manner, and possibly even things like land application of the solids when we're done. So nothing gets hauled away, that these biosolids end up enriching soils down the road and within the county. So basically this is a, CBU has been more or less in the forefront of looking into this thing, but we've always looked at it as more of a general solid waste concern. So the proposal that we're putting forward right now is simply to find out, is it even possible financially for us to do this? What would be the triple bottom line benefit of this to the community? And CBU would be a customer of the facility, not the operator of the facility necessarily. So we don't know who would operate it, whether it would be us or an outside company. All of those things are to be contemplated in the process of doing the study. So it's really an idea that benefits everyone in Monroe County, not simply city residents.
I guess I'm asking, would non-CBU customers benefit proportionate to what you're asking them to pay here on this? That's all. And I'm not against having this kind of digester in place. That's not the issue. It's where the money comes from and then where it will go. Are you going to then also come to the solid waste? If the feasibility study says, oh, yeah, this is really feasible, these are the outcomes we expect, would you anticipate coming back to the solid waste management district for funding for that?
My presumption at this point is that once the study is complete, it would take a county-wide, community-wide effort to decide, based on the information in the study, whether we want to do this or not. I don't see this as a project that would be a City of Bloomington Utilities project. City of Bloomington Utilities would be a participant, clearly, because we have a significant waste load that we could be taking to such a facility. We also have a facility that could benefit from whatever energy is generated there. And we happen to have a nice footprint to site the thing on. So that would be our interest in participating in it. But we see it as a county-wide, community-wide project. So presumably, well, we don't know at this point how the thing would work out financially. This could be done through a public-private partnership that would involve the Solid Waste Management District, probably the city sanitation department, and a utilities department, and possibly a private enterprise as well. So we don't know. The purpose of the study is to find out what's possible and give us some things to look at if the community wants to proceed with this sort of a organic waste reuse kind of effort.
Well, I'd like to add my comments here. I was part of the executive committee's discussion of this proposal. And one of the things that I was left with was a question as to whether the solid waste district or the non-CBU residents of the county would benefit from some of the outputs. And this includes certainly energy, but that seems, electricity, that seems far away from any facilities that the district has. I didn't know about biogas utilization. I thought that was a possibility, but I want to make sure that the study reviews what the possibilities are for non-CBU residents. And do you see that as accommodated by the actual study proposal?
Well, certainly, at the end of the day, the facility would take solid waste and it would make some kind of energy source. It would make biogas, and then presumably the most cost-effective thing to do with the biogas would be to use it, first of all, to heat the digester. And then whatever's left over could be used to make electricity. You could sell that electricity onto the grid, but more likely you would just use it, sell it to the utilities department for operating Blue Tree Pool, because we're a nearby big customer. The other thing that the facility makes is digested solid wastes that have been anaerobically digested at a warm temperature. Those wastes can, depending on what's in them, those wastes could likely be composted and then utilized for land application. So, every county resident would benefit from the fact that if we could do land application, that land application could happen at multiple sites, but we wouldn't be paying, county residents would not, and city residents would not be paying to haul those wastes to Terre Haute anymore, or wherever it is you haul them. So the benefit is reducing the amount of waste that gets disposed. And hopefully what we would love to do is to have organic waste not leave the county. Conveniently, Blue Tree Pool is surrounded by farms. So there's the possibility for additional composting of the anaerobically digested solids prior to land application could be done right on site. There's plenty of land for that. So there's, but we don't know what the economics of the process would be. We don't know the triple bottom line analysis of what this would be. That's looking at the finances, that's looking at the overall benefits to the environment, and then of course the social benefits to the community all in one. So the purpose of this is to get us in the direction of being able to do a triple bottom line analysis of this kind of an activity so that we can make a reasoned decision about how to proceed. Whether that's working with an outside contractor, who knows? There might be someone who'd say, wow, there's lots of grease. We'll build a facility to do grease right there. And then we want to add something else onto it. I have no idea. The purpose of this is to look at what's possible and how that all fits together into, to give us the information to allow us to decide how it fits into our other plans.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Kelson or Mr. Wheeler? Ms. Piedmont-Smith?
Yeah, I have a comment. Is that all right? I wanted to remind my county colleagues that a majority of people who pay taxes to support the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District live in the city of Bloomington. City residents are county residents, and a majority of county residents live in the city. So let's not forget that. Also, just hearkening back to the purpose of the solid waste management district is to reduce waste going to landfill. And this is an excellent way to reduce waste going to landfill, potentially. The study will tell us if it's feasible. So I urge my county colleagues to keep that in mind when considering this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. McLaughlin?
Sorry, would it be appropriate? I'm gathering that there's a desire for some more discussion about this. And if that's so, would it be appropriate to table it, which I'd be happy to move to do, or anything?
There is not a motion
Oh.
on the floor to table, but we certainly can continue this discussion at our next meeting, and that will follow a CAC meeting, at which time they will have had an opportunity to review the proposal. And additionally, well, another item on our agenda is a joint meeting with the CAC, which may follow our next board meeting.
Thank you very much. If I may, I would just echo the comments Ms. Piedmont Smith made, and also just urge, I appreciate, I think it's good to talk it further. I appreciate utilities stepping into what is something beyond their purview a little bit too, with the wider solid waste management issues, but appreciate that and hope we can move forward quickly, whichever way we go. So thanks a lot.
So we would like to invite you to return for our April meeting, and we thank you very much for your discussion today.
Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. McGlasson?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move now to reviewing the responses for waste tire management. And that is for Mr. McGlasson.
The
Oh,
orange bags was,
I'm sorry, I marked it off already. We have a bid for supply of trash bags. Mr. McGlasson.
and unfortunately, we only received one bid in response to the request for bid, which certainly we were hoping for more than that. But we did get the one. It was from our current vendor, Waste Zero. You have in the memo there the prices that were quoted in the bid. I will let you know that as they are a current vendor, that is a substantial price increase based on bags purchased annually over the past few years. It's about a $30,000 a year increase in the cost of the orange bags to the district. But it is the only bid that we received. I will tell you, with regard to the completeness of the bid, as our current bidder, they did ask, and I did waive the requirement of them to provide samples of the bags. We have those bags. We know what they are. They also did not include a requirement for strength test results in their bid. I asked about that, and they did subsequently supply those via email, and the results did meet the criteria listed in the bid requirements. So, that's what we. Let me see. Mr. Baker to come on as a panelist in case there's any legal questions regarding some of the irregularities in the submitted bid, but would let the board know that based on the order that we have in right now, we're waiting on delivery. The bags that we have in stock, we can make it 6 to 7 months before we will be out of bags. If the board does not accept this bid or award this bid, and we have to go out to do another bid process based on the time to complete the bid process and the time to manufacture the bags from whoever wins the bid, we'll be cutting it very, very close on running out of bags before we could get new ones in.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Yes, I'm sorry for my ignorance. How much are the bags now?
We currently pay 23 cents per 33-gallon bag and 14 cents per 15-gallon bag.
And what is the cost per bag in the proposal?
The quoted is 35 cents for the 33-gallon bag and 20.25 per 15-gallon bag.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
You said that if we asked for more bids, we would be running it close to running out of the current bags in stock. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, based on our experience with the current vendor and the time that it takes to place an order and get that order delivered, and add that into the time to go through a public bidding process and bring it to the board to award. Yes, we're looking at a 6 to 7 month time frame, and that's right about what we have in stock or on the way to us.
Was there any reason why they jumped up in price so much? Did they give a reason, or?
The resin prices. I mean, it's plastic, it's a petroleum-based product, and it was already trending up before our most recent jump in price. And
Right. Well, one concern I have too is the quality of the orange bags. I know personally myself for using them, you never know what you're going to get. I've seen a lot of rejects that I personally had to take back to the store. I just want to know if there's any kind of quality control that we can initiate, or.
well, I don't know how recently you've had an issue with any of the bags. I know that a year or so ago, and we don't really know what happened on there, and they had a bad run, and we got a shipment of bags that just either with the drawstrings, corner seams,
They weren't cut right.
right? Yeah, just a variety of issues. But the deliveries that we have gotten since then, not that they're perfect, but the
Right.
complaints that we get, the bags that we have to replace are back down more in line with historically, what we're used to.
How long have we used this company?
10 years,
10 years?
I think.
Ms. Githens, you have a question or comment?
Yes, if I understand this, this is a 3-year, is this a 3-year contract? Is that correct?
What we asked for in the request for bid was a 3-year contract. And I was probably remiss earlier and would note that their bid did have an escalator clause in it. They were unable to provide a 3-year total cost for the full term of the agreement because they anticipate a price increase annually based on the CPI.
So that with their escalator clause that's in there, that's what I was going to get to. That's why I was asking about the 3 years. That it says CPIU or for urban consumers plus 3%. So if we took an inflation rate of 7% right now and they added their 3, that means next year it's gone up by 10%. Am I reading that correctly?
I have that question as well, because it could be interpreted as if the CPI index is 5%, you add to 3%, it's 8%. Or you could say the CPI index is 5%, and then we're going to add 3% of that back onto it, which would make it 4% total. I mean, those are the two different ways I thought that could be interpreted, the way they worded it in their response.
Right.
Well, I think they're adding 3% to
that would be my guess. And Mr. Baker is here, and we'll defer to him on some of this. We asked for a 3-year in the request for bid. I don't think there's anything that would preclude us from, if we wanted to move forward with this and say yes, but we only want to do it for 1 year, and we'll see where things sit after that. The question, the concern with that for me is that, based on, you can see that what the quote we're looking at right now is an annual value of $100,000. So if we have to put this out for bid every time, from my interpretation of the statute requiring public purchasing. So I don't, and Mr. Baker, unless you have a different opinion or know of something I'm not aware of, That was part of the reason of asking for that 3-year term, was to avoid having to do this every year.
Mhm.
Um,
So let us hear from Mr. Baker, please,
So
if he's still there.
here he
Yes.
comes.
I'm here.
Hello, Mr. Baker.
Hello.
Did you follow the questioning that went on?
I missed some of it. I'm sorry. I'm happy to answer any particular question that you might have. I am familiar with the situation we're in with the one bid and the exigency we'll face if we don't continue with this particular provider.
So if I might summarize, one question had to do with the cost increase based on the percentage relative to the CPI, and then then I guess the additional costs. Ms. Githens asked about that. Would you review what you see in terms of the increased costs per year?
Mr. Baker, I'll read exactly what was in the received bid regarding that. It says,
Sure.
price per case will be adjusted at each anniversary of the effective date according to the Consumer Price Index, all urban consumers, plus 3%. So I guess, so the question is, does that mean if the CPI index is at 5%, then our increase is going to be 8%? Is that what that means?
I'm not sure that's a legal question.
That might be a business question. Yes. It's probably not a legal question.
I'm always happy to help, but I try to stay in my lane. And when we start talking numbers, I'm always very conservative with my qualifications and abilities. So,
so we could clarify this on percent increase and take this up at our next meeting. We also could clarify whether we can accept this bid for 1 year, have time to look, to put out, advertise this to other suppliers over the next year, and see if we can come up with a better cost for the district.
I believe you can do that.
So, yeah, so Mr. Baker, the request for bid did indicate that the district was looking for a 3-year agreement, but I, in my mind, that doesn't preclude the board from saying, but we only want to do 1 year at these terms or these prices, or they have that ability, correct?
I think they can. I think the board can clearly do that, particularly when we just have one bid. If we had multiple bids, we would have to kind of back up and start over again, or at least communicate to the however many bidders we had that we want to adjust our requirement, which would be not 3 years, but 1. Given that we only have one bid, it's a fairly easy change in our requirements. So yeah, absolutely can be done.
Ms. Githens
Okay.
has her hand up.
Ms. Githens?
Yeah, I will say that with all the turmoil in the world right now, being locked in at this rate may actually be something that we would appreciate a year from now.
Concur.
If this locks us into CPI plus 3%, and then they wanted to come back a year later and said, oh, our prices have gone up. Well, essentially this year the prices went up almost 50%. That would keep us from having that shock. I'm not pushing for one thing or the other. I'm just making an observation based on numbers here.
Mr. Hamilton?
Thanks very much. I'm just curious to help me understand, and you know, these realities of price increases are ugly, but they may just be what we have. I don't know, it's too bad we only got one bid, but for the price of a bag, is it $1.50? My colleague helped show me that. For somebody who wants to use a larger bag, is that what the cost per bag is?
Yes, $15 for a roll of 10 bags for the
Okay.
33-gallon ones, yes.
And do you have an estimate of how much it costs the district to dispose of that bag, to make it available, to collect them, to move them, to whatever we do?
Not off the top of my head, but we certainly have that information and can put that together pretty easily.
Okay. Well, thanks. I know it's, this is happening all over the place, I think, with costs, so it's tricky.
Yeah.
Appreciate
And
it.
that's, and that gets into kind of the next question that I don't know that we're ready to pose or tackle at this point, but if we moved forward with this, would that mean we would have to reconsider the retail cost for those bags?
When was the last time that $1.50 price was changed? Do you happen to know?
It was
No,
yeah,
more recently.
before the pandemic, but within the past 3-4 years, yeah.
It was within the past 3 years because it was after I came on the board.
Okay.
Mr. Swafford?
I have a question too, that maybe if we only ask for 1 year, that maybe they would give us a better price because of what Ms. Given said. They're aware of the state of the world too, and given a bid for 3 years out, maybe they went high on that to cover themselves. So my question, can we go back and renegotiate with the vendors for just 1 year and ask for a new price, or do you think that would matter?
The ability to go negotiate further, I would defer to Mr. Baker on, since it was a request for bid. But, I mean, that's a logical argument. It certainly is
Right.
a possibility, yes.
Yeah, I think if I think we can get away with going to the bidder and saying, look, we want a term of 1 year rather than 3. And that's a fairly simple and straightforward change. But if we add much more to the negotiation, it becomes a negotiation. It's probably time to start the bid process all over again. And the result will likely be one bidder again, but still yet.
So I would comment that it's my understanding that there's a time-sensitive issue here for nailing this down. And are you comfortable, Mr. McGlasson, with going back to the company, checking on a 1-year offer and then coming back to the board in April?
As far as, approaching the vendor, I mean, I'm comfortable doing that. I would not be comfortable with the timeline and situation we would find ourselves in if the board did not accept the bid and award a contract at the April meeting. I'm already a little uncomfortable if we don't get something done today.
Okay. So does anybody have a better solution other than Mr. McGlasson going back, seeing what he can learn from the company and returning in April? Ms. Piedmont-Smith?
Well, I could make a motion to approve this bid on the condition that it's reduced to 1 year, but with the same or less or smaller price. How about that?
Yep, I think that sounds good.
That works for me. Mr. Baker, any legal issues with?
I'll second that.
Well, I think I don't want to get into the legislative procedure, but it seems to me it should authorize you to go to the vendor and propose that. But other than that, no problem.
Any discussion on that motion? Ms.
I-
Piedmont-Smith?
I just wanted to ask, what's on the Q&A and chat in Zoom? Was there any?
I was going to do that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Look, A lot of those have been addressed. Mr. Evans is up there trying to run the meeting and not paying attention to the chat and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not any input on
That's
this
his
matter.
feed that we're seeing on the screen, not.
Okay. So, further discussion or comment? Then let's have a roll call vote on the motion.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Motion passes. And then just to clarify for that, so that motion was to accept the bid on the condition that the vendor will agree to a 1-year agreement.
At the same cost or lower.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Okay. I know. I would like to amend the agenda to move up item 7 before item 6, because that is a voting item and one of our board members that makes a quorum needs to leave. May I have unanimous consent to proceed? Thank you. We will now discuss the request for appointment to the CAC, and we're always happy to hear about applications for the CAC. Mr. McGlasson.
Yes, you have in your packet a letter of interest from Mr. Bradley Lucas. He is the Director of Building Operations with the Monroe County Community School Corporation. And I know the Executive Committee has heard me informed them that I knew MCCSC, the Board of Trustees, had indicated they would like to see some sort of representation on the CAC. And so Mr. Lucas is who they've selected, and so he is seeking appointment.
Thank you. May I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from board members?
Just to clarify, the motion is to
Ex-
appoint Mr. Lucas to the CAC.
Yes. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. McGlasson, would you wish to call the roll?
Swafford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So thank you. Mr. Hamilton has to leave for a prior engagement, and we will now go back to item 6 on our agenda, which is the review of responses concerning waste tire management and disposal. This might be a short discussion.
This might be. As indicated in the memo, your packet, unfortunately, we did not get any responses to our public request for information on waste tire management and disposal in Monroe County. So be that as it may, have discussed that situation, with Mr. Baker, and feel that given the lack of responses, that the district would be on sound footing to move forward with pursuing a program for us to accept and manage waste tires. So the next logical step would be for us to start to look at the internal logistics of, where are we going to store them until they get picked up? How are we going to deal with accepting them? Identify a vendor, get some costs together. All along, we've kind of moved forward under the assumption this would be a fee-based service. So we'll have to get some costs on our end together to help calculate what those fees would be. And then obviously the fee resolution would have to be amended to incorporate those fees in there, and we would get the process rolling.
Very good. I would comment that as I drive around, I pay attention to waste tires that I see ever since we started discussing this possibility. So you all can do that too. Next item on our agenda is number 8, Executive Director Job Performance Review. And this is something that the Executive Committee discussed. And we thought we should bring this to the board. And the board presently at this meeting now consists of one additional member. So Mr. Spofford. We felt that this was a timely consideration. And the question is, how should we carry out the review? Should it be done by the full board? Should it be done, should be initiated by the executive committee and then brought to the board, because it is a board decision? And the decision and discussion about the review would be carried out in executive session. This is not public business. Do you have any input here?
I think over the past years, we've let the executive do the thing and then just come back to us and let us know.
Okay,
And that's the way it's been for years. So I'm not sure when the last time we did one, but I've been on this board for probably 20 years.
yes, you have. You're a
Yeah.
senior member.
So I think that's fine. Just let the executive board look at it and bring it to us and go from there.
Okay, do we need a motion on that?
I don't believe so.
No, we can't do a motion.
Well, no.
So
Yeah,
never mind.
We
Yes,
should
yes,
point
you
that
can. I'm considered present.
Is she considered present present
Yes.
for voting?
Yes, but.
Because it's not a fiscal question.
That's right. Is it okay for us to proceed with a vote without a quorum?
There is a quorum. That's what I'm telling you.
Well, and that's, I think.
Now we're,
Mr. Baker thought we were done with him. I think
okay,
he's logged off.
okay.
I honestly, I don't know. My
Sorry,
recollection,
we're confused.
interpretation of the change in the law that they made did require at least 50% to be present in person. Now, what happens when you start that way and don't end that way, I don't know.
But I thought it was that 50% of the people in the meeting, not 50% of the board. There's a difference. Had to be in person.
Yeah, I don't, and I apologize. I do not have it in front of me.
Okay.
And
I could be wrong.
no, but I don't, I guess, I also don't know that you necessarily, this is an item that you necessarily need to have a formal vote on.
I don't think so either.
If any of the members who are not present currently have an objection, they'll certainly have an opportunity, to voice that, because they'll be made aware through other correspondence that we're moving forward, and they'll be made aware that an executive session has been scheduled, and so they'll have ample opportunity to object if they have a problem.
Right. So let's not consider this any further, and let's all learn the requirements about quorums and votes.
We'll know that next time.
And we'll just keep Mr. Baker around for a longer period next meeting. Okay, moving on. We have scheduling a joint meeting with the CAC, and this is mostly a discussion item. And do you want to lead this, Mr. McGlasson?
Yeah, I can. I mean, this is something that I know that the executive committee and Mr. Winia have discussed on a couple of occasions. But the board is required to have 2 joint meetings with the CAC every year. And the law does leave open, what the agenda for those meetings will be. So it's up to the 2 bodies to determine the agenda. I know I've listed a few of the ideas that were tossed around between the executive committee and Mr. Winia. But so the 2 bodies can establish the agenda as they see fit, the topics to be discussed. And I think there's a handful of things that warrant discussion, joint discussion between the 2 bodies. And this is a good time to schedule one of those joint meetings.
Good. we usually have one of the joint meetings during budget session.
Yeah, yes, historically, we've
Yeah.
done, always done one with the budget preparation.
So, okay. Well, do we need, I think the proposal is to have the joint meeting follow the April board meeting, or can the actual April board meeting be a joint CAC and board meeting with the board handling its business?
You can hold them concurrently.
Yes,
or
that's what I'm trying to say.
Or consecutively, but I think that for, you know, for the purposes of record keeping and such, we would need to, you know, one meeting would have to be called to order and then adjourned, and then the other meeting called to order. I mean, nobody has to get up and leave, nobody has to move,
Mhm.
but we do need to
Okay. let's
call
do
to
that.
order and adjourn the two different meetings
Okay.
and have two separate agendas.
And we can hope that this will suit everybody. Does this change the time of our April meeting? Because
well,
if
that
we're
would-
talking,
That would depend on whether the joint meeting is before or after the regularly scheduled board meeting. If you want the joint meeting to be at 4 o'clock, then yes, we're pushing the board meeting back to 4:30, 4:45, or 5. And I know there's some discussion about the availability of the CAC membership to attend a meeting at 4 or earlier.
yeah,
And maybe a desire to have it at the back end of the board meeting.
so I'm thinking the latter is the case. But because we would like the CAC members to be here for the discussion of the biodigester study proposal.
I can inquire with Mr. Baker and see about the board's ability to take action during that joint meeting. Where if we wanted, I know there's interest in having a joint discussion over the utilities memorandum of understanding. And so possibly we could have that on the agenda for that joint meeting, and the board could take action on it. I would want to clarify that with Mr. Baker, but I can inquire about that.
I think that's a really, really good idea to see if we can do that.
Okay.
Well, the executive committee will hear from you
Yeah.
about this, and the rest of the board members will hear about the meeting schedule. Okay.
Yeah, I'd only ask that our agenda be light if we're gonna have both meetings together. Because I know the one really lasted quite a long time. So if we're going to stack the meetings on top of each other, then I would ask for a light agenda for our regular solid waste.
Right. So, well, here we are at 5 o'clock, and we've done almost all the business except for department reports and public comment CAC report. So we'll try and work it out, and we can be flexible by amending our agenda to scooch in some other items if we have additional time before we feel the bulk of the CAC members can arrive.
Certainly, the board always has the prerogative to postpone action.
Okay. So there's a plan. Okay, next item. We would like to hear the CAC report and invite Mr. Winia to come to the podium. And he's not used to being a podium speaker. He's used to being a Zoom speaker.
Indeed.
Welcome, Joe Winia.
Thank you very much. Good to see everyone here in person. It is a little different to be standing in front of you. I don't have quite as many resources at my fingertips, but
Okay. You could take your mask down for speaking purposes.
excellent. That
Thank
will
you.
probably help clarity, won't it? Thank you. Well, at least for today's meeting, I don't have an awful lot to report for the CAC's activities. Unfortunately, our last month's regular meeting consisted majoritarily of the re-election of our secretary due to an oversight on the recently approved bylaws, including a limit on term duration. So that was not taken into account when electing our secretary in the January meeting. who had actually exceeded the term limit, so we decided to re-elect a new one. And then the latter half of that meeting consisted of a presentation on Robert's Rules of Order, which was informative, but also ran long. So unfortunately, that's all our meeting consisted of. And then following that meeting, I did have a meeting with our new secretary, Lily Kleinlein, about setting up the standards and expectations for the role for the rest of this term.
Very good.
That is all I have to report for the CAC.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to joining with you in April.
Likewise, I think I can speak on behalf of the CAC and say that we agree.
Do you have anything for Mr. Winia? Okay, thank you. See you in a month.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Now we'll tackle those department reports. Mr. McGlasson, that's next.
Okay, well, we'll try to be brief. I do want to highlight that first bullet point in the memo that we have gotten a lot of positive feedback on the new website. Not that it's perfect, but people do seem to appreciate the changes and prefer it over the old website. Then the other, that second bullet point, we probably need to make the board aware. Bedford Recycling, which is a scrap metal processor, is proposing or is trying to site a facility in Monroe County. And for some reason, Republic Services has, I guess, expressed the opinion that this would constitute a waste facility and potentially jeopardize the district's host fee. Obviously, the district and our attorney disagree with that. We believe that the state law defines scrap metal separately from a waste facility. So we'll continue to see that through, and but thought that the board should be aware that Republic has, for lack of a better term, dropped that threat. So we'll see where that goes. And then, other than that, the legislative session has concluded for the first session, and that House Bill 1226 was really the only bill that had any pertinent issues in it. They do not directly impact us, but one good thing that's come out of that is a pilot program that they're going to do in Marion County. I know from some other discussions that it's going to focus on glass, but hopefully there's something that will come out of that. The state's going to make some of the environmental funds available to do a pilot project for a glass in Marion County. Got some of the manufacturers involved in the discussions of that legislation, and they're the fiberglass manufacturers predominantly, they want glass, they need glass, and they're trying to find ways to get more of it. So that's part of what this pilot project is about, and be curious to see where that goes, and if anything develops from that can be expanded beyond Marion County. In the interest of time, that I will stop and answer any questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McGlasson. I had a couple of questions about the media outreach and education. On the media outreach, has there been any messaging about just buying less stuff? Because that's really, the best way to reduce waste is to not have things you don't need to begin with.
As far as in the past month, I would really have to go back and look. I know that Ms. Procral does have such messages in her rotation, and we do periodically. They are, whether or not they happen in February, I don't know off the top of my head, but I do know that she does have postings that she does that do relate to reduce consumption, reduce buying.
Okay, that's good.
As a way to reduce waste.
Great. And then my other question, the orders for the rain barrels and compost bins, somebody asked me about it, and so I was looking on the regular website, and I could not find any link to this gogreendistrictorders.com. Is there now a link? That was a few days ago.
There's not, but that, at least Ms. Procral, I got it, I don't know if it was the same person or not, a similar call yesterday, I think, and we discussed that, and I am going to reach out to the website developer and see if they can get a link put on our website to the orders.com website. Because yes, that can be gogreendistrict.com versus gogreendistrictorders.com.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
people who don't know how to get the
Right.
information, but just know it's from the district,
Yeah,
they're going to
so
go to our website and not find it.
That issue came to light for us in the office as well, and that is something that we are going to try to get corrected and get a
Okay.
link put on our website.
Thank you.
So thank you for
Mhm.
that.
That's all that I have.
Welcome, Mr. Joey Long.
You're muted, Joey.
Oh, hi. Sorry, everybody. I'll start with recycling and reuse. With the weather being nice, the parking lots are busier. People's out doing the recycling. With that, Cook Medical made a large donation of blue trays to us that are nonprofit groups. Our regular customers, they love to use them to make tiny greenhouses to get their seeds and plants started for the springtime. So we have a lot of currently happy people coming in and taking trays right and left. And our hazmat, we looked in different providers for our Sharps program. We end up staying with the current provider, but we got them to lower the cost that we send out each week on a tote. So we're going to save some money there. And staff has finished their DOT and HAZWOPER training, so everybody is up to date. And that's what I have. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Very good, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Well, I was just trying to look if this was in the February packet, but at some point we had asked for a comparison of the year-end numbers for recycling in 2021 versus the year before. Was that already in a previous packet?
No.
No, you're right, and I will take that. That is, you did ask for that. I started to put it together, and I forgot to put it in the packet.
Okay.
So we will get that to you next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
So next we have public comment, and we still.
No, Mr. Paulson has a
Oh,
report.
I'm sorry. Your face.
You didn't
was-
forget about me, did you?
Yeah.
Lee Paulson, landfill director, compliance director. Nothing really to add to the report that I submitted. We've been pretty busy with a lot of roadside stuff still again, past month and continuing into so far in March. Treatment plant it's been colder than it's normally been, at least sustainable colder, consistently colder. So we haven't been able to quite get the amount of treated leachate that we kind of wanted. So we hauled a little more than we thought we would this past month, and then the rain came and stuff like that. But we're kind of getting back on track. The weather's getting a little nicer. So hopefully those things will pick back up. And then the other thing is that AECom has our November groundwater statistics still. I've communicated with them. I should have it either tomorrow, Friday, or first part of next week to go through and then get our submittal ready for the state.
So thank you. Questions for Mr. Paulson? Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Now, now we'll return to public comment. And do we have one public comment in person? Come up, Mr. Winia. And we will look on Zoom to see if we have anybody else wishing.
Thank you. I did just
Welcome
want to
back.
mention, thank you, to the concern about taking action on the MOU with the CAC joint meeting. I just wanted to cite from Indiana Code Section 1321 3-11, which defines the Citizen Solid Waste Management Advisory Committee functions. Under Section C, it says each advisory committee shall do the following. Part 2 is if invited by the board to do so, participate without the right to vote in deliberations of the board. So I think we could be invited as members for the board meeting and then have a joint meeting following and be able to have that discussion and take action on it.
Great, thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Ms. Githens has her hand up.
Thank you. Ms. Githens, I can hardly see your hand symbol.
I know, it's that background. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Paulson. There was what I considered a fairly egregious situation that I had asked him and Mary Beth to look into, and they hopped right on it. It was a environmental compliance situation. And so I just want to say a public thank you to the way that whole office operates. I don't think they get enough recognition.
Great. Always good to have appreciation. So now we'll have comments from directors. Mr. Swafford, Ms. Piedmont Smith. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to announce that the city of Bloomington has launched a program called Compost Up Downtown, in which the city has dedicated $75,000 from our Build Back Better funds from the federal government to help downtown businesses, restaurants, compost. And so we're partnering with Earth Keepers, which is going to offer a 3-month composting trial period. And they'll do consulting with the restaurants and figure out how best to set up composting and the frequency of pickup and all that, providing the bins. It's a 3-month trial period. And then hopefully once the restaurants, get their composting up and running, then they will, pay for the ongoing pickup services through Earth Keepers. So I think this will help a lot of restaurants that want to do better by the environment, get set up, get the impetus to have their space evaluated and have a program that fits their business model and their space needs. So it's a great program. It was just announced this week, and I'm happy that the city is able to support these efforts.
So can you tell us where the location is?
It is, and I'm really not sure why, but it is for restaurants within the Bloomington Entertainment and Arts District. So it is downtown Bloomington.
Okay, thank you. So I will add one comment, and that is the Friends of Lake Monroe has finalized their Lake Monroe Watershed Management Plan. And there is an executive summary of that plan, which is several hundred pages long. You can read the shorter executive summary on the Friends of Lake Monroe website. And if you want to read the entire report, it is also there. But this has a lot to do with water quality, and keeping trash out of the lake is a major point. So that's information to share with you. Thank you. Is there anything further? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. See you in April.